Was ist ein Tonfalken?
Do you see
One of them.
I think the other one is right next to it. If you want, you can go up to the platform.
Yeah.
Because we can see like the little ones pretty well, but maybe you can also see if there are still some falcons in the other nest. Because right now they're in the stage where they're starting to fly. So there are two different types of falcons living here. You have the red-footed falcons. Those are pretty rare in Austria.
Where do you see it?
Oh yeah, right, it's still there. So I think they've been coming here for a few years now.
The Hupo Summit is a place where young people from all over Europe, from Spain to Georgia, can come together and exchange on current social issues and on current environmental issues, and also experience cultural diversity and natural diversity. We took the Hupo as a mascot because the Hupo is a flagship bird that environmental problems and therefore also environmental protection does not know any national borders.
Inhale, up, down. Breathe in, press the standing foot firmly down into the mat.
I still have pain in there.
We choose to connect environmental issues with social issues because they are always linked. Yeah, we are all humans and it's all about feelings at the end. So if you feel connected to something on a very personal level, you will definitely care about it. Environmental education is the key to make people feel connected to the environment and to the planet.
Okay, so you will see the first platform is about, I don't know, maybe 6-7 meters, and the whole thing is 16 meters high, which is not that high, but in an area like this where it's so flat, it enhances our overview. And it's really nice to be on top because you can see also into the reed belt, into the Hungarian part of the reed belt, so it's really nice to go up. So on this side, we're looking in the direction of Hungary. So if you turn to the right side, you can see the reed belt. That is the nature zone. So this is the part of the national park where no one is allowed to go. And you can see the difference between where the grazing stops and where the reed begins, because the reed is growing way more in the nature zone. And you can also see that it makes sense to do the grazing because it's keeping the area open, keeping the reed a little bit lower.
Are there animals going in the reed?
Sometimes, and there are two types of animals in this area, which is the Hungarian grey cattle and the water buffaloes. And the water buffaloes go further into the reed and into the water. Yeah, the grey cattle, they're over there at the very back. It have white spots.
See these white spots at the very end?
In former times, those grey cattle, they were used a lot in agriculture for three purposes. So it was for working, as working animals, and they were used for milk, and they were used for meat. And in the middle of the last century, this was kind of unpopular to have animals that are used for all three, because you didn't need the work anymore. And so they almost died out. There were not so many left of them, but they tried to repopulate this area, for example, because they're very well adapted. The reed belt in the Lake Neusiedlersee is the second largest reed belt in Europe. And so it's really also an important area for all types of animals that are living in the reed. And we can see that the big part of the reed belt is in Hungary. So
Is there an agreement between the two national parks to have a common management?
And there is a lot of working together, especially for scientific projects. It is necessary also to work together properly, because the birds don't really care about the borders. But you can all see that the birds get around when there's water somewhere.
Der Säbelschnäbler ist da vorne, gell? Der mit dem schwarzen Kopf.
Genau. There's a avocet, it's called. It's a small white and black bird with a beak that is bent upwards. There's more avocets and kibitzes on the, if you continue the channel, and then at the end of the channel there are the water buffaloes sitting in the water right now. It looks quite cool. They're also trying to cool them down.
Since this national park is established, could they observe also here the biodiversity loss we're experiencing now all over the globe?
In the last, let's say, 50 years, definitely. So especially with insects. For the birds, it's a little bit different, because some birds don't breed here anymore, some do now.
So it was more change of habitat?
For the birds, yes. For the insects, it's definitely a loss in biodiversity in the last years, in the last tenth of years.
Biodiversity loss is a cause of species extinction. So species are dying out and just a few species are growing in number, which means that globally we are losing genetic heritage. The loss of species is directly linked to the growth of the human population. Within the last few decades, the human population on this planet grew from approximately 4 billion to almost 8 billion people. So the only areas where we can experience wilderness is mostly in national parks, but also national parks have a difficult job to protect their land actually, and to communicate between the needs of the local inhabitants and the needs of the local ecosystem.
Everybody talks nowadays about biodiversity loss. And we are almost bombarded with news. So we know about this, but we do not connect it so much to our economic systems and to our education systems. The capitalist paradigm has established a mold that we apply now globally. It is everywhere. We basically have unified our global cultures. And even though we speak different languages and eat different food and maybe also go to different schools, but the system in which we navigate, in which we live, it's always the same. We compete against each other and we do not collaborate. A nation-state system that is competitive, where one nation competes against another, needs also an education system that is competitive. So this really trickles down from the economic paradigm into the education system. And that's basically why it's also so difficult now to change the education systems. In traditional school systems, 90% plus happens indoors. So in this indoor environment, everything is prepared to an extent that teachers do not really have to take precautions every day. They walk into a room, they know where everything is. The same is true for children. And naturally speaking, children get bored. Children have a much higher sensitivity. They want to have more impulses. They're asking for this.
Nein, Schnecke. Doch, das kannst du doch nicht tun, doch, Elena. Sicher, man darf das. Meine auch, bitte. Das machen die Forscher auch immer. Ja. Hoffentlich kannst du es nicht. Überall die Wusstet ihr, dass Schneckenscheiben gut für die Haut ist?
Recently, there has been a lot of medical diagnosis that children either suffer from ADHD, from children burnout, whatever. There are different things. Richard Löw summarized this under the umbrella term nature deficit disorder. And this nature deficit disorder is also where we basically trigger our work. We think that children should be outdoors. They should be exposed to an exciting environment where things change all the time, through the season, through the weather, and just what happens around us. In traditional education systems, we only focus on the visual and the oral and the very hardcore cognitive intelligence. But there are just many humans that excel in different forms of intelligence, and they are neglected, even ignored in this traditional curriculum setup. There is a milestone study, Breakpoint and Beyond, where divergent thinking is evaluated in children. And divergent thinking is sort of the precondition to be creative. When you think, you first diverge, you create opportunities, choices, and then you converge and you make a choice. So in our current education systems, there is only the convergence. There's one answer to one problem. Divergent thinking creates choices. It's a completely different approach in education. And what also Ken Robinson quoted in his talks is that the capacity of divergent thinking reduces exponentially with increasing age. So at age 5, children are geniuses in divergent thinking. More than 90% of them have this competence. But at age 14, it is about 10%. So this basically means that we are educated out of creativity, out of divergent thinking, by only having to find one answer that the teacher expects, that the education system demands from us. And that's the main problem. The solution to this is that we, again, set a focus on creativity, that we move away from just being literate. Literacy is important, there's no question about it, but it is not the only focus in an education system that creates creative and also self-reliable human beings.
Everybody here? Where's the last canoe? You're coming? Okay. Okay guys, we are now in the reed belt. How do you like it? Most of the water from the lake is coming from rain, and in the summertime it's really dry, so it's getting less and less, and you can already see it with the reed. The first 10 centimeters are grayish. Yeah, that's because it used to be underwater a month ago or something.
Oh, do you think it's gonna dry out at some point?
Yeah, it's possible because of it. It has dried out a lot of times. Last time was 1865. It was completely without water. They built roads through the lake. And 10 years after that, the lake was 3 times the size it has now. Yeah, and maybe one more fact, like you can see the reed is really high. So it has a lot of structure, as you can see. So there are some places where the reed is really young and others where it's really old and really dense. And some birds like it more like old reeds, other birds like the younger reed. Some birds like it more like this, like if the reed is not underwater. And some other birds like it if it's really in the water. So there are a lot of small birds in the reed breeding. And we also have some big ones like herons, white, big. Maybe we see one. Okay, so let's continue. And maybe one thing you can keep in mind, like when there was the Iron Curtain, people tried to escape from Hungary to Austria through the reed belt. Can you imagine? And even now there are still people getting lost sometimes in the reed.
I believe, and again, I'm not alone, that there is a very simple bottom line to finding a solution to the problem that we have in our education systems. It's rewilding. We need to rewild ourselves, and we need to start with our children. We need to let them be wild. If you let children be wild, they diverge. They are just different. They develop culturally in a different way. They are not uniform, they are not conform. They are excited, they are engaged, they are not bored.
Können wir den rausholen? Ja! Los, Laura, nehm ihn raus. Wo sieht man das Blut? Da sieht man das Blut. Was ist da drin? Ist da etwas oder? Nein, schau mal nach. Oh mein Gott, da ist noch ein Fisch drin. Ein Fisch ist da drin? Ja, eben. Da ist ein Fisch drin im Maul. Ich will auch aufsehen. Oh mein Gott. Der hat wirklich ein Fisch. Oh Gott. Vielleicht ist er erstickt. Ja, oder ein Fisch ist da drinnen in den. Pass auf. Da hat die Tür noch. Oh, da ist ein Baby. Das ist ein Mini-Fisch. Vielleicht kommt es aus dem Maul. Vielleicht kommen die Kinder auch aus dem Maul. Fische legen Eier. Fische legen Eier. Genau, und dann wissen wir mehr. Da ist er verletzt. Da unten. Hier bluten auch, wenn er ist. Okay, das ist ganz.
When we talk about rewilding, it might sound like we talk about a very abstract concept, but there is a psychological background to this. If we are in an industrial education system, if you grow up in an industrial education system, and many adults have done so, they are deprived of joy. It's really about this central emotion, joy in doing something. And we find as human beings joy just in very different things. We are not the same. We are not all engineers. There are good engineers that have joy in, I don't know, doing chemistry and doing this and that. But maybe it's just 10% of humanity. We need to give in our education systems this opportunity that every child finds joy and connects this joy with a purpose. Purpose is something that we need also. It's almost an instinct. The instinct to work is much undervalued in our societies. But we need to start with joy.
I found one last thing before we can go. A water bug. Wow. This one is really cool. And one thing you can see, it's really funny because he breathes with his butt. Oh. He takes an air bubble with his butt. He cannot breathe underwater. He's like a diver. Oh, now you saw it when he takes the air. This one I can take him out, but he doesn't like it. But he's really, his natural habitat is the water. You can also see his back legs are really much longer, and they have a lot of hair. And he's like walking in the water, more or less, like. He's vegetarian. Yeah. So he eats some plants, but there are a lot of insects, like the babies of the dragonfly. They like really like to eat meat.
To grow faster also.
Yes. They even, if they are capable, they even hunt fish.
Okay. Here in Austria we have almost 600 organizations doing environmental education, and this is great. So it means that people are dedicated to it, but on the other hand, it is a really tough job and it is not valued. And those almost 600 organizations are actually in a kind of a competition, although they are all fighting for the same cause or they all have the same passion, and they should actually collaborate. Because it is not valued, most of those organizations are relying totally on volunteers, and also it is not really part of the school system, and so it is like leisure time activities. But the environment is not just for leisure time. If we continue to work in such a fragmented way, a lot of resources are wasted and a lot of knowledge is not stored properly. So it might be lost or it might be sourced again and again. And this is not a very efficient way to bring environmental education to a quality standard, what we would need to make it also accessible to everyone.
But it's like now it's like really camouflage, like in the plan.
Vibrating. Wow.
Yeah, look what it's like.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Nobody run. What?
Nice.
It's gone.
Let me.
Let me, please.
There are so many great initiatives all around the world that very often feel powerless because they feel like they don't have enough impact in what they are doing. Even myself, I have the experience of trying to live in a sustainable way, not flying and taking short showers and things like that, and then seeing that my impact is so tiny and what I'm doing is not really worth it, or it feels like what I'm doing is not worth it on the global scale. And so many people around the world have this feeling. They are trying to do something good for their community, for the planet, but they feel powerless. They keep putting so much effort and work into what they are doing, but they just don't feel like they are having any impact. So with the ARC, we want to connect all these little initiatives in a vast network and make it immediately visible that all of us together, many small flames, are creating one big light that is having a huge impact on the planet. So it is a platform with which we are aiming to connect everyone in sustainability and nature education, or whatever there is that is trying to restore the planet, into one force. We chose the name ARC as an acronym for activate your body and mind, or yourself and your community, then restore for restore the planet, and know for knowing your bioregion.
We developed ARC is a non-profit and open source platform. It applies mindful social media engineering and harvests the power of technology for social and environmental good. The ARC is designed so that it satisfies your learning instinct and accelerates the impact of education for sustainable development. It really is an out-of-the-box solution to the climate crisis. It is charging environmental and sustainability education with technology. So, on the ARC, you are either a learner or a pro-user. As a learner, you can easily find activities to join and discover offline communities of people that share your passion. Your profile is something like a personal learning cockpit that guides you to your next learning challenge and shows what you have achieved. You can collect impact points by joining activities and badges for courses on sustainable development. If you are an organization or an individual educator, you are a pro-user. And the ARC aims to bring you tools to simplify your work. So you can efficiently create activities, you can put them online, manage participants, and share your experience with other educators in a global library of best practices. Some communities even boarded here in the Hupu Summit.
Okay, cool. Maybe we can do the very beginning on my computer, with my. Let's keep it open, and then you will see it also. Just open the ARC, and you will get it there. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead. So what do you guys do?
An independent group of initiators. We usually organize projects.
We are helping youth to fulfill their ideas.
Okay, so after you create a community, you will be listed in here, right? Everybody can see you, and you'll be able to create events, create courses, award badges, stuff like that. Yeah. So you enter things in here one by one. Community name, under the name, if you have like a motto, slogan. Here you can go to the bottom and create the new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's mainly it. Yeah, go for it. Create.
Create.
Okay, welcome to the ARC.
Spending more time in the bosom of Mother Earth is essential for us to understand this connection, that we are just children of this planet and we cannot just extract. We need to give back, we need to share. This is what nature teaches us.
Das ist meine Schwester, die Timna. Und Entschuldigung,
Okay. Soll ich nochmal beginnen?
Ja.
Okay. Also ich bin die Nomi und das ist meine Schwester, die Timna. Und wir sind hier im Kitchen-Team, die 2 Chefinnen und haben alles unter Kontrolle.
Wir haben beschlossen, den Summit vegan zu machen, einfach auch aus den Klimaschutzgründen.
Also für 50 Leute zu kochen ist anspruchsvoll, aber wir haben es gut gemeistert.
Ja, unsere Tierwelt in der Küche, die hat ein bisschen anders ausgeschaut als die im Nationalpark. Wir hatten in erster Linie mit Ameisen zu tun und Fliegen, die in der Küche vielleicht nicht ganz so erwünscht sind, wie man sich das im ersten Moment ja, in der Natur so wünschen würde. Ja, sie gehören auch jetzt zum Küchenteam, würde ich sagen.
Aber mittlerweile haben sie sich auch wieder schon verabschiedet und finden jetzt wieder ihre Nahrung draußen.
Wir konnten sie überreden, dass es in der Natur vielleicht doch der bessere Ort für sie ist.
My name is Michelle and I am from Bolivia.
And do you live in Bolivia?
No, I live in Germany. This last year I worked with Generation Earth, which is a group working with the WWF. And I made there some connections with wonderful people that took me to this summit. I think this has like a wonderful approach to nature and it connects you as well, as you can see. But yeah, I think like this was really nice because there is with people that are not only studying or working with environmental issues, but also doing other kinds of professions. So I think like this was like the exact amount of nature and wilderness that we needed, yeah. I have never seen so many birds before. I was never so interested about birds, but here we learned a lot about them, about their habitats, about their behaviors, about the migrations, and I found it really interesting, really beautiful, and also I think I would add to one of my favorite activities, the bird gazing, because it's a beautiful way to connect to yourself, to be in silence and enjoy the nature and relax, and then you can continue with your life. For example, in Bolivia, since it is a poor country, we are not allowed to think about other stuff more than we are really worried about surviving and getting the money for the next day. And we cannot sit down and relax and hear the nature. And I think this is a problem because of course people don't have the time to go on vacations and just enjoy nature. So when we talk about environmental problems, they really don't understand why they have to worry about it. For me, it's really important to have these social movements, these social connections, because, for example, in this summit, I am the only one coming from South America. So the most of the people are coming from Europe, and of course we have different thoughts, but I think like they don't have the experiences, and I feel it is really important to have these spaces. Like the more cultures, the more countries that participate, it's even better because then you can have this exchange of information, of experiences, and then working with different networks, connecting with more and more people, then it helps us to expand our horizons, our perspectives, and finding also new solutions.
Vale, pues me llamo Lucía y bueno, estoy aquí porque, bueno, soy de España para empezar, y estoy aquí porque pues, me pareció una experiencia súper buena y pues como no, pues, había que aprovecharla.
Me llamo Javier, también vengo de España, del sur, Sevilla.
Yo me llamo Cristina, también soy de España y yo vengo aquí porque me lo dijo ella, porque se había quedado una plaza libre. Y nada, la verdad es que era una oportunidad súper guay para disfrutar y estoy encantada con ella.
Las expectativas con las que venía, pues conocer a gente de otros países que tuviesen las mismas ganas de aprender y los mismos intereses y las... No me salía la palabra, tío. I'm looking for a perfect word, but it doesn't come to my mind.
Como las mismas inquietudes.
Las mismas inquietudes sobre el medio ambiente, el tema ecológico y todo lo relacionado con lo que significa este summit. Y bueno,
La verdad que ha sido mejor de lo que me esperaba.
Bueno, pues yo venía con un poco sin expectativas porque realmente hasta que no estuvimos aquí no supimos del todo de qué iba el proyecto. Pero bueno, venía sobre todo porque quería aprender a educar en medio ambiente, que es como, pues, yo creo que es la principal razón por la que estamos todos los españoles aquí.
Sí.
Y luego pues también para poder enseñar a los demás a hacer un buen uso de ello.
Yo diría que toda la experiencia de por las mañanas que no sabía que íbamos a tener, que han sido pues los paseos en bici y demás, ha sido una locura porque yo no tenía ni idea de pájaros ni de ecosistemas, o sea, realmente no tengo mucha idea de nada de lo que hemos estado viendo estos días. Y me ha parecido súper guay porque he aprendido muchísimo y además lo he disfrutado, que es algo que no me esperaba para nada de esto. Y pues nada, eso que me llevo.
Bueno, yo a ver, es una tontería, pero yo no sabía montar en bici y el hecho de que aquí lo normal sea ir a todos los sitios en bici y demás, me ha parecido súper guay y hoy al final he cogido una rutina que me ha gustado bastante. Y nada, eso, también las excursiones con la bici a ver ecosistemas, animales y demás, me ha encantado y joder, también conocer pues un poco cómo es otras partes que no has vivido pues en tu país de origen, pues me parece muy guay.
How is the environmental situation in your home country?
Buena pregunta.
Pues,
muy buena pregunta.
Yo diría que en nuestro país, bueno, por lo que hemos visto aquí, en nuestro país se le da muy poca importancia a todo el tema de medio ambiente, cambio climático y demás.
Sí, es mucho más difícil llevar una forma de vida mejor en cuanto al medio ambiente y a la sostenibilidad que aquí. Aquí es todo muy diferente y mucho mejor.
Y eso que en España creo que somos muy afortunados porque tenemos distintos ecosistemas en un país que no es tan grande, por ejemplo, como América, pero tenemos absolutamente de todo. O sea, desde las montañas nevadas en el sur, tienes unas costas en el norte impresionantes con unos acantilados verdes brutal, tienes unas playas también, incluso desiertos. O sea que ecosistemas tenemos todos los habidos y por haber, pero luego la mente y la conciencia humana en el sentido del respeto al medio ambiente no está del todo conseguida. No hay tanta educación medioambiental como debería.
Nos queda mucho todavía.
Sí. Bueno, para mí lo más importante de todo esto es la educación y creo que es la conclusión a la que he llegado durante estos días. Y creo que es la educación en cuanto a otras personas y en cuanto a ti mismo, porque muchas veces el primero que falla eres tú mismo. Entonces, creo que basándonos en inculcar una educación con más sostenibilidad y con más respeto al medio ambiente, se puede llegar a conseguir algo.
Si pudiese elegir un hechizo o algo mágico que pudiese cambiar parte de la vida en España, sería el poder atraer a personas o el poder dar tiempo a las personas para conocer realmente dónde vivimos. O sea, el permitir que la gente conecte con la naturaleza y no solo contárselo en libros, no solo contárselo de boca a boca en un trabajo, sino conseguir que las personas se puedan trasladar a ese medio ambiente mucho más a menudo, porque al final yo creo que la práctica es lo imprescindible para realmente conocer que no somos los dueños de la tierra, somos unos integrantes más.
Ja, mein Name ist Hanna. Ich bin ursprünglich aus Oberösterreich und studiere jetzt aber seit 2015 in Wien.
Mein Name ist Chille. Ich komme aus Wien, dort geboren, dort aufgewachsen. Und ich habe vom Summit von Gudi erfahren, die den ja auch ganz stark mitorganisiert. Und als ich gehört habe, okay, da gibt es die Gelegenheit zu einem internationalen Jugendaustausch am Neusiedlersee, habe ich sofort gewusst, da muss ich dabei sein.
Hallo, ich bin der Bernhard. Komme auch ursprünglich aus Oberösterreich, studiere auch in Wien auf der BOKU, UBM und Umwelt- und Bioressourcenmanagement.
Ja, ich bin die Julia. Ich komme aus Mondsee und studiere jetzt auch in Wien. Und für mich war es besonders spannend, weil ich habe vorher Sinologie studiert und jetzt studiere ich an der BOKU Umwelt- und Bioressourcenmanagement und das ist irgendwie so zufällig ein Sino-Europa-Austausch zu Umweltthemen, also habe mich sofort angesprochen gefühlt. Und ja, mir jetzt auch ganz zufällig einen Freund geschickt und ich bin total begeistert.
Ich glaube, ich würde jedem Menschen wünschen, dass er sich so ein Summit nochmal machen kann. Das gehört ja auch irgendwie dazu, dass du auch wirklich mal einen Sonnenbrand hast.
Zu oft.
Oder auch wirklich im Zelt schlafst oder einfach wirklich mal in der Natur einfach bist, um einfach wirklich das zu ja, einfach dieses Gefühl zu bekommen und auch dafür.
Oder das Naturjournal, das war echt wahnsinnig spannend irgendwie. Ich kann zwar überhaupt nicht zeichnen, aber es macht trotzdem wahnsinnig viel Spaß und man zeichnet dann die Vögel und dann sieht man so, wow, wo hat denn der überhaupt die roten Flecken und wie schaut der dann eigentlich wirklich aus? Und
es sind so viele verschiedene Eindrücke, die ich da verarbeiten muss. Ich könnte jetzt sagen, den Säbelschnäbler, der den Storch attackiert hat.
Wow!
Ja, das war super. Also das war entweder die Mutter oder der Vater, ganz genau habe ich es nicht gesehen. Aber die einfach dann den Storch attackiert hat, weil der zu nahe an den Kindern war.
Aber der ist schon viel kleiner, der Säbelschnäbler.
Ja, der ist viel kleiner.
Ja, das war Wahnsinn.
Säbelschnäbler ist so.
Ja, eben.
Und das ist ein Storch.
Also und das war halt schon, da habe ich auch wirklich so gesehen, so diesen Einsatz auch. Der Storch hat mir ein bisschen leid dann, weil der wollte eigentlich gar nicht attackieren. Der wollte nur so trinken da quasi. Aber, ja.
Für mich war besonders überraschend, wie unterschiedlich die Lebensrealitäten der Menschen aus den verschiedenen Ländern sind. Also für uns ist gerade Umweltschutz ein großes Thema. Aber zum Beispiel die Teilnehmenden aus Georgien haben mit uns lange darüber geredet, dass bei ihnen Wasser ein großes Thema ist, dass sie nicht alle an sichere Wasserversorgung angebunden sind und Wasser dort in privater Hand liegt, wenn man eine sichere Wasserversorgung haben möchte. Und das war in meinem Kopf so, wow.
Damit rechnest du in Österreich?
Ja, gell, also wir haben halt so ein sicheres Wasservorkommen oder dass in manchen Ländern zum Beispiel auch einfach Klima- und Umweltschutz noch gar nicht angekommen sind.
Ich habe es also spannend gefunden, dass unsere Herangehensweise so unterschiedlich sind. Also man merkt, ein paar von uns sind einfach voll die Wissenschaftler, die haben Chemie studiert, die studieren auf der BOKU, andere sind dann mehr von der geisteswissenschaftlichen Richtung und man trifft sich aber in der Mitte, man redet dann über ein Thema gemeinsam und man lernt dann auch so viel von den anderen. Das ist wahnsinnig spannend. Wie ist es bei euch so?
Ich habe inhaltlich extrem viel mitgenommen. Mir war überhaupt nicht bewusst, dass wir in Österreich Salzwasser haben. Also das war total spannend.
Ja. Die Cocktails haben dir also gefallen, gell?
Voll.
Ich glaube, wir sind alle jetzt ganz leicht süchtig geworden und wir werden einfach immer wieder zum Neusiedlersee zurückkehren wegen dieser Cocktails.
Besonders wenn du dann einmal Ranger bist.
Ja, genau. Aber das ist ein guter Stichpunkt oder Stichwort. Ich habe eigentlich die Ranger-Szene da auf dem Neusiedlersee erst hier kennengelernt und habe mich irgendwie voll verliebt. Also die Leute, auch wie das rübergebracht wird und so weiter, das ganze Wissen. Das ist einfach ein toller Ansatz, einfach, der da hier verfolgt wird und ich glaube, das werde ich auf jeden Fall ja bei meinen Aktionen, bei meinen Projekten auch wieder einarbeiten.
Das heißt, wir kommen zurück, wenn wir zwei dann hier Ranger sind?
Ja, vielleicht. Fragezeichen.
Alors, je m'appelle Camille et je viens de France, mais je vis actuellement à Berlin et j'ai entendu parler du Hupo Summit car je fais actuellement un volontariat au sein de Naturfreunde Jugend Deutschland et donc qui est partenaire du projet. Je trouve que c'est vraiment intéressant de mélanger ces phases peut-être plus concrètes de découverte de la nature, donc on peut vraiment observer, sentir, ressentir et en même temps des moments plus abstraits pendant les ateliers le soir où on va discuter de thématiques parfois très philosophiques. Et donc d'avoir ce mélange des deux et de pouvoir faire la connexion justement entre ça, c'est vraiment intéressant. Et un souhait, ça serait que chaque jeune ait l'opportunité de participer à un projet comme celui-là, que chaque jeune ait l'opportunité de voir de lui-même ce que c'est d'expérimenter la nature et de rencontrer des personnes de différentes cultures avec qui en parler et de profiter de cette expérience. Ce que j'ai vraiment apprécié apprendre, c'est la manière dont en général le parc national est géré et le fait que en fait, les paysages ici, l'écosystème soit artificialisé par l'homme depuis des centaines d'années, fait qu'aujourd'hui il est important de continuer les activités humaines au sein du parc national pour garder l'écosystème comme il est. Et ça c'est vraiment intéressant parce que c'est pas souvent comme ça qu'on voit la conservation de la nature. Souvent on se dit plus un parc national il conserve et on essaie de faire le moins possible. Et donc ça c'est vraiment la chose je pense qui m'a peut-être surprise et que j'ai trouvé vraiment intéressante à découvrir tout ça plus en détail.
Pues yo soy María, soy de Zaragoza, que es una ciudad de España.
Y yo soy Lucía, tengo 17 años, también soy de Madrid.
Entonces es como sentirte en un sitio en el que compartes compartes tus ideales con las personas y a pesar de no conocerte tenéis muchas cosas en común. Entonces es muy bonito conocer a gente que realmente parece que ya conoces de antes.
Sí, el ambiente es muy bueno y luego estar rodeada de naturaleza, pues también como que desconectas un poco de tu día a día de la ciudad o
el colegio, la universidad y estás pues conectada con la naturaleza.
Y a lo mejor lo que más me sorprendió fue el poder comer vegano, porque es algo como que en España aún no está demasiado, no sé, interiorizado, y aquí es como que las personas lo han tomado como con mucha naturalidad y ha sido genial poder ser vegano durante estos días.
¿Ha sido fácil?
Sí, lo han hecho bastante fácil. Es cierto que nosotros estuvimos hablando sobre la apatía hacia el cambio climático, y es que es muy complicado estar preocupado por algo que va a ocurrir en el futuro y algo que de momento no nos afecta directamente, siendo que hay más preocupaciones económicas, sociales, políticas. Entonces a lo mejor es por eso por lo que en España no estamos tan concienciados con el medio ambiente, porque a lo mejor hay más cosas más importantes que creemos que nos afectan más, aunque el medio ambiente es una causa súper importante en la que deberíamos preocuparnos desde ya.
Es difícil. O sea, es difícil teniendo la situación en la que tienen muchos jóvenes, en la que nos encontramos de pues, inestabilidad, de no tener un futuro claro, tener tiempo y dedicación para poder centrarte en esto, y yo creo que eso es algo que debe hacer pues, el sistema educativo y como pues, concienciar de una manera mayor a los que somos las futuras generaciones.
Hombre, un deseo podría ser que a lo mejor tuviéramos más empatía.
Y yo pues poder disfrutar de nuestro planeta pues mucho tiempo más, si conseguimos frenar el cambio climático.
My name is Jonathan.
Du kannst gerne in Deutsch.
Ah, okay.
Ja.
Ja, also...
Fang einfach nochmal an.
Ja, genau. Ich heiße Jonathan und ich komme aus Greifswald. Das ist zwischen Usedom und Rügen an der Ostsee in Deutschland. Also ich hatte irgendwie schon erwartet, dass ich ein bisschen was über das Naturschutzgebiet hier erfahre und mit anderen Leuten spreche, einfach aus anderen Ländern. Aber es war einfach echt noch viel mehr und viel toller als irgendwie gedacht. Also nochmal ganz andere Erfahrungen und Eindrücke von den anderen Leuten, aus den anderen Ländern und ein total interessantes Naturschutzgebiet hier. Ich persönlich habe nicht in der Schule, also nicht hauptsächlich in der Schule Naturverbundenheit gelernt. Ich habe viel durch meine Familie, glaube ich, bin ich da viel beeinflusst worden. Und auch im Kindergarten. Ich war in einem Kindergarten, wo wir sehr viel in der Natur waren.
Wie war das?
Das war schön. Also im Kindergarten konnten wir total viel machen und wir hatten totale Freiheiten, Sachen auszuprobieren. Und gerade als Kind ist es ja total schön, dass man erstaunt über alles sein kann und dass man total neugierig ist. Und das war total schön, da der Neugier nachgeben zu können und ja, alles zu entdecken.
Zehrst du davon heute noch?
Ja, also dass ich immer noch diese Neugier mir ein bisschen erhalten konnte, glaube ich. Ich glaube, das hat mich schon sehr geprägt, dass ich auch heute noch viel und gerne in der Natur bin. Und ja, einfach, dass mir total den Mut gegeben hat, alles auszuprobieren und entdecken in der Natur.
I will say however it was.
Well, let's say then how it was, okay?
Yeah, I will say, like you met.
I met with one of the organizers here.
You should start from the beginning,
okay,
you know.
Yeah, okay.
Double three.
Sorry, I'm a very quite difficult person here.
My name is Sophia.
I know.
Double four. Sorry, the last one.
My name is Sophia. I am here joining the summit together with the other Georgians. We're in total 6 participants. We really want to implement more environmental projects in the country because our country is facing lots of difficulties right now.
My name is Georgi. I'm from Georgia as well, and I'm very happy to be here. The topic is very important and very familiar for me, and we would love to get more knowledge, share our experience with others, and to implement the methods and workshops in our organization, and to share it with our community as well.
He's actually the outdoor expert. It's just amazing, you know. You never think that, you know, there are some small tiny insects and small tiny inhabitants in the area that you never noticed, but they're still there, right? And they need your protection. You're more concentrated on the things that are bigger than you and the things that you actually see. And then there are birds on flying around, and you don't realize that, you know, they need some place to rest and they need some place to eat and then continue their journey, right? And also it's very nice that the summit is called Hupu, because, you know, this is the main reason behind it. So the Hupu travels around the world, and you could nearly everywhere see the Hupu, and it is also a bird who reminds us all the time that we're not living in a certain country, but we're living in the planet Earth. So we need to take care of the planet Earth, not only the country that we represent.
Does the Hupu live in Georgia?
Yes.
And what is the name of it in Georgia?
The name of the Hupu in Georgian it's Opopi.
Opopi?
Opopi, yeah.
In Georgia, the social situation is very different than in Austria. So,
you bet. Yes, it is so different.
So, could you take something out of it, or what do you think? What would it need to make environmental education also more accessible and more popular in Georgia?
Oh my God, that is such a big topic.
You know, like here often when we talk with each other, especially with Europeans and especially with Austrians, like they ask all the time, like how is climate change situation is going in Georgia and what you guys do there. And our answer is that like we don't have time for that, you know, like 'cause there is so many social problems right now in Georgia that people are fighting with like many difficulties there. They don't even think that about there is some climate change problems and environmental problems which we need to take care of. And
it is very different from what you see here. We are quite fast developing country, but still we are in a process. And when you get to live in Georgia, then there are some other topics that here are already solved, and we still tackle those issues. And it takes lots of effort, and also it takes lots of energy. And then there is not much left for the environment. It's very important. We can feel it, of course. The pollution in Georgia, in Tbilisi, especially in the capital, is crazy. And we already have some really bad results out of the pollution, because you have many people who suffer from different illnesses, and the traffic is horrible. And so there are many, you know, the side effects of the climate change, I would say, as well. But people do not feel it that much, because there are some other really important...
The problem is also the lack of education and information about this field, because in the school or like in the family, nobody talks about it. Like there's no information about it. There is no place where you will get this information.
So I would say that yeah, like this is new thing for us. There are some movements, but it's not that big, and it needs to be bigger and louder to get this message to the people, so that they
it has to be more accessible, the information.
It is. It has to be. Yes, exactly. And there are ways to do it. And I think that what we are doing here right now is a huge step forward, because the collaboration that is right now possible for Georgia and for the rest of the participant countries, it is pretty amazing. My wish would be to, you know, with the magic stick, to make all the people realize that we are whole system, and this is a huge synergy, and that we need to act to save ourselves and to save others at the same time. So I would be like, it would be like eye-opening thing for me, you know, and for the rest of the people as well. Well, I don't know like how to put it.
Yeah, we all need
you know,
awakening.
Yeah,
let's order the awakening.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like everyone understands the real problems now. Shh. And all the forces will go to saving the planet and making it a better place, you know, where you want to live. Peace.